All right, shalom, shalom. I'd like to start off first and foremost by giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Ruach HaKodesh. Double honors to our elders and the apostles of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. Peace, love, salutations, and blessings to those that are doing this work in truth and in sincerity. This is your brother Nathaniel from the GMS Camp Atlanta, coming back at you through the Spirit with another lesson. And I pray and hope this lesson is edifying. Now, the topic of this lesson is going to be called colonization is the reason for immigration. Okay. So colonization is the reason for immigration because Esau, he goes into these other lands and on this and he takes their resources. Okay. In retrospect, too, immigration is also used as a tool to displace and to siphon wealth from Jake. Okay, so it's a twofold thing. It's a tool to go into other countries and steal their resources, right, and take their lands. And on the other end, is to stop Jake from succeeding. Okay, we have a series of videos that we're gonna play. One, he's gonna go into the immigration issue because globalization is what created this immigration issue. Because people just don't want to up and leave their countries. I mean, you think to yourself like, damn, everybody want to come to America. No, people don't automatically think that America is the land of the free and all that shit. No, Americans go over to their country and they rape and they steal and they pillage for their resources. They destabilize their government and then they make their land an uncomfortable place to live. So now they want to migrate to somewhere where they can raise their children and family in peace or less oppression. So then they come to America, okay? Or they try to get here, right? Where ultimately is where their resources end up anyway. I have a video where it talks about how, America being only 40%, 4% of the world's population consumes almost 80% of the consumer goods. 4%. So that also shows you how wasteful Americans are, how entitled Americans are. Even the poorest and lowest of Americans, they all feel the same way because you don't have access to the same, the other countries don't have access to the same niceties and same comforts you have over here in America, even in America's low state right now. Okay. And this is all due to globalization. Let's look up that word globalization real quick. GL. Globalization. Let's see. Oh, all right. So globalization definition. So globalization is a process which businesses or organizations develop international influence or start separate operations on an international scale. And they call it the world economy, but basically all of this is American corporations going into other countries and stealing their resources. Okay. So when you're in a country and you're rich in resources, but a country like France is coming over to your country and stealing your resources and oppressing the indigenous people of that land, what do you think they're going to do? When you got a country like Mexico who is rich in resources and agricultural resources, and then you have places like the cartels that are heavily influenced and armed by the U.S. government and military, and their country is pretty much a proxy, a vassal state for the American government, and the people are oppressed there. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to try to come here. Okay. And what they don't tell you is that, even though black and brown people, or so-called black people and brown people, are the face of immigration, you have more immigrants coming from other countries that are not nor South America and Mexico and what about Asians? You know, What about, Chinese people? What about Japanese people? What about Arabs? What about white people that immigrate from other countries illegally and come here? Polish, German, Scottish, you know, British. You have all of these different demographics of people that come here in even bigger mass numbers, and yet they're not mentioned, which shows you that Jake is the target, as he has always been. Okay, so I'm gonna go to I'm gonna start off with the book of Habakkuk, because this right here, this scripture is globalization. Habakkuk, the second chapter, starting at the fourth verse, it says, "Because his soul, which is lifted up, is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. Yea, also, because he transgresseth by wine, his philosophies. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlarges his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all peoples." This is globalization. I come to your nation, I come to your country, and I tell you to do things my way. And I control you, and I lay down the law. You're gonna do things my way. Okay? This is verse 6. It says, "Shall not all these take up a parable and a taunting proverb against him, and say, Woe to him that increases that which is not his? How long? And to him that laden himself with thick clay." And that clay goes into debt. We know that, but we're focusing right here on him increasing that which is not his. And he enlarges his desire as hell. Now, that right there is one of the key points. He enlarging his desire as hell and increasing that which is not his. So when he go into these other countries, he takes their resources by force or through some type of fake ass centralized bank agreement that he came up with, that it's set for them to default. There's no way they're going to be able to pay it back. So they give up their real world resources for this fake money that these people just printed out of nothing, basically. And then now they get their real world resources. Okay. So then the people that have been owning these farms, has been owning these agricultural hubs and stuff like that for years, they no longer own them. So then these corporations come in, and then they pollute the area. Then the food becomes scarce. Work becomes scarce. Resources become scarce. In a land where these people had access to all of those things, now it becomes scarce. Well, who did that shit? Okay? It all becomes scarce. So he took his desire to mine their resources and to oppress his people and turn it into a hellish condition. When you really these scriptures we read more and more. We read every day, and we read them over and over again, and then we find new ways to break these scriptures down. Okay, because these scriptures are alive. All right? And when you start really comparing what's happening in the real world versus what it says, you're like, wow, this dude does really desire. He enlarges his desire as hell, and he increases that which is not his. He takes other people's stuff and then say that they're the problem. And then when they come into a country that you also stole from the indigenous people to try to get some type of refuge, and you say they're the problem, and you come up with all type of laws to have these people deported or removed from this land that you stole, or even worse, they get sent to a Alcatraz type situation, and they're never seen again. Okay, but all of these situations are created by you. You're the one who do this. You're the one who created a scenario where there's an imbalance and people are struggling. Okay, it all points back to you. You see, everyone wants to, as Elder Yashawamba said in his last video. I believe he did it yesterday. He said, you know, And y'all created these problems. But nobody looks at the creation and who's the one who made this stuff happen like this. Nobody looks at that. They look at the end result. People scattering to try to find some type of refuge. Okay? That's what's looked upon, the end result. Not who caused it. We're not looking for who caused it. We're looking for the people that are being affected by it, which is crazy in itself. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this video, this TikTok video, and then we're gonna play this one right here, which is not that. I'm slacking. This one, which is a really good video. So without further ado.
Issues the United States is now facing are largely a result of United States policies. That's something I've come to understand now living in Honduras, in which I have to explain over and over, because I always get a comment like this whenever I talk about how wonderful Honduras and its people are. The United States has in the past and continues to do three basic things wrong in dealing with Central America and South America. The first is it is engaged in a history of neocolonialism, taking resources out of Central and South America for the good of United States.
And it's not just Central and South America, it's everywhere, okay?
Corporations. The term banana republic comes from the actions of the United States government in Honduras to undermine reforms that would help the Honduran people for the good of United States banana growers. And it has done that throughout Central America and South America. It is an economic advantage to the United States if its neighbors to the south struggle.
You see that? Okay, so he's going to create a hellish condition. So what do you think what's going to happen to all these people?
The reason you get such cheap bananas and such cheap pineapples is because the United States has backed military overthrow in other countries, resulting in the gifting of huge amounts of those countries to United States corporations. Let's be honest, you get cheap smoothies in the United States because the United States government for decades has undermined political and economic reform in Honduras, Costa Rica, Guatemala, and other countries. And it's not just fruit, it's also your underwear. Fruit of the Loom moved manufacturing plants out of the United States down into Honduras and other Central American countries where it pays barely a subsistence living, keeping these people in poverty so that you can get cheap underwear off of Amazon. The second problem is the United States has a huge drug problem, and it vacuums up drugs from South America. Those drugs aren't manufactured in the Central America, and they're not consumed.
Oh, you know what? And Slaki, I misspoke earlier when I said 80% of the world's goods. No. It was 80% of the opioids. 4% of the population. He just jogged my memory. 40% of 4% of the population consumes 80% of the opioids in the world.
Consumed in Central America. They just have to go through here on the way to the noses of United States citizens. As long as the United States does not resolve its massive drug problem, it's going to bring violence into Central America. The third problem is the United States has terrible immigration laws. They're incredibly draconian. We've known for decades they don't work, and we've known how to solve them for decades. The problem is there are United States politicians that are more interested in making you mad about immigration and playing on racial prejudices rather than simply resolving the issue.
No, the issue is get y'all asses out their countries and allow those people to develop their industries and their nations. Allow those people to develop. But see, the thing is that the United States, they don't want to challenge. They don't want anybody to be able to challenge them. Okay? So they can't let no other nation develop. And that goes into this next video that I have right here. Now, this video I got from Elder Malcolm, and I'm probably going to do more than one video based off of this, because this Asian woman, which I've seen her, before Elder Malcolm, I got this video from him. I just didn't realize there was a channel on YouTube that was chronicling, that chronicled her. But I have been coming across her videos for quite some time, over a year almost, right? And she goes into the history of Jake has been oppressed, which makes makes me kind of think, and I've been thinking that this Asian woman may actually be a Jake because she empathizes too much with Jake. Okay, and here she breaks out some very heavy points about how at every single turn Jake was sabotaged, Jake was destroyed. Okay, so I'm gonna grab another preset real quick. I'm gonna go to Micah 2. It says, woe to them, this is Micah 2 and 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hands. They covet fields and take them by violence, and horses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. Okay, so this devil, he oppresses a man and his heritage. Okay, um, and he takes their resources. All right, and and then he points their finger at them and says they're the problem. Now, in this video right here, we see she gives and Salaki, I'm kind of reading something right now because I'm trying to find the preset um that goes along with what I'm saying. But anyway, uh so she's going over how at every single turn Jake was sabotaged and he was destroyed. Over 60 cities and towns in the United States that was destroyed systematically due to these devils not wanting Jake to ever succeed out of fear of retaliation or revenge. It's the same way they want to keep other nations, you know, um, in a state of poverty because they don't want anybody to be able to challenge them. Okay, you cannot challenge this devil, because first of all, Esau's weak anyway. All right, so if people stand up against him, eventually, what will end up happening is over time he will start to falter anyway. All right, but there's been a veil cast over all people to think that this man is somehow benevolent and kind and you know he's basically the chosen, right? But now people are seeing that he's not the chosen, that he's just an oppressor. All right, so um again, I'm gonna read this again. Verse 2, it says, they covet fields and take them by violence. So that's these multinational corporations going into these countries and taking their lands and oppressing their people and their houses and take them away. So they oppress a man, even a man in his heritage. Now I got one more that I want to get. This is Micah. I'm Salakia. This is Zechariah chapter 1, verse 15, and it says, I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease, for I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction. So this devil, he helped forward the affliction on Jake. He continued on when Jake was coming out of things during slavery. He decided to keep it on going on. So I'm gonna play this because this goes into that, and then we're gonna Lord willing, I'll be able to find that precept, and we can get back into it. But without further ado,
hits me really hard in the gut. And so I want people to understand that I am answering the question, what do I know? Not speaking for anyone. Many commenters today have pointed out how many affluent Black towns have been created and destroyed throughout United States history. And most non-Black people know about the Tulsa Massacre, Black Wall Street, Lake Lanier, but it was many Black towns. One commenter said over 60. And it's not that some Black people sometimes were able to establish a successful community that accumulated wealth. It's that Black people were consistently able to go anywhere and together establish strong communities that accumulated wealth and had education systems and businesses and were thriving. And every time it happened, people destroyed them. And then as you progress through time, it becomes less acceptable to burn and flood and massacre entire towns. So again, you have the passing of the Civil Rights Act in 1964, and the United States opens the door to Asian immigration in 1965. The United States has a long history of using immigrants to get in the way of Black people. And so I think that this system of using immigrant-owned businesses in Black communities is designed to siphon wealth away from Black communities. And another commenter asked me, why do I think that people are afraid of letting Black people build their communities and accumulate wealth and to thrive? And we see it so many times. It's because they fear revenge, because they know what they have done to Black people. But again, we have been told that if Black people wanted revenge, it would have happened already. That is not what they want. And I think that people think that the violence and exploitation and abuse of power that they have exacted upon Black people and all Black, brown, indigenous, and people of color is a universal human trait. And that if anybody...
Now you see, so this is a perpetual thing. It's not just, the fear of revenge. That's part of it, but it's the perpetual hatred that this devil, okay? I'm going to start at verse 1. This is Ezekiel 35:1. It says, Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir, and prophesied against it. Mount Seir is a so-called white man. It's a people before it's a place. And say unto it, Thus saith the Lord power, Behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee. And I will stretch out my hand against thee, and I will make thee most desolate. And I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate. And thou shalt know that I am the Lord. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword, in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had come to an end. So, and this is what trips me out about y'all Jakes. Y'all want to save these people. Every single day, we're hearing more and more and more evil that these people did to us, that they perpetuated to us primarily, and then the other nations secondarily. Okay, because as she starts going in and how they oppressed the Asians, strapped bombs to them and made them work on the damn railroad track or you're going to blow them up. It's horrible shit, man. And that's this devil's legacy. Okay? His legacy is to destroy and to enslave and oppress. But that didn't give y'all a pass to overlook what y'all was allowing to happen to, the so-called Black people that were around you guys. Y'all sat there and, y'all Asian Americans, y'all allowed this stuff. Y'all allowed the benefit. Y'all wanted to be a part of his society so bad that y'all said y'all gonna go along with the oppression that he was putting them upon a specific people. Y'all even started to treat us like they treated us. Okay, so don't think that y'all get a pass just because you're admitting to the oppression and how. I mean, it's good that you're admitting it, but nevertheless, it doesn't stop the fact. It doesn't change the fact that you all were a part of it. Okay, verse 6 it says, "Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord, I will prepare thee unto blood, and I will pursue thee, since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee." Okay. So, so the Lord is upset with you so-called white people and you other nations for what you did. Okay? So on the one hand, we have this nation, this devil going into other countries, displacing their nations through globalization, right? And then there's an immigration problem that's created. And then on the other hand, he's in here oppressing and killing and maiming Jake and other people in this country, but primarily Jake. And yet, y'all want to save this man. It is unbelievable how stupid y'all people are. You know, everybody can no, we can't. No, we can't. Everybody cannot get along. When the wrong people are ruling, everybody cannot get along. All right, so let's continue to play a little bit more of her.
He has that wealth and power, then they would return that evil in kind. But it's not. It is specific to, and all Black people want is to be allowed to thrive and accumulate wealth and exist as other people. I find that a good way to help people who have a different lived experience than you exercise empathy for the struggles that you face that they may not be familiar with is to help them understand. And I was hoping that you could help me understand what anti-white racism looks like. Can you tell me about how you don't know where your ancestors came from because they were kidnapped and enslaved? Or how you don't know what languages they spoke, what spiritual practices they had, or what traditional knowledge that should have been your birthright was lost? Not because they were allowed to and wanted to assimilate, but because their enslavers or residential schools forced them to assimilate. Can you tell me about how your ancestors had explosives tied to them while they were building the United States railroads? And then as a show of appreciation, they were excluded from society for nearly 60 years? And could you tell me about the hundreds of towns that were destroyed, like the Black towns and China towns and Japan towns, all destroyed by the same demographic? Can you tell me about the children who were unalived because they whistled at a woman or because they floated in a lake a little too far past the segregation line? And can you tell me how it was for your parents and your grandparents to be United States citizens who were put in internment camps on United States soil? Can you tell me how it was for your family to live in the back of their store because people who look like you were not allowed to purchase or rent homes? And could you tell me how it was for your parents and for you to shed blood, to be treated as human, as equal, and to be allowed to simply share the same space as other people? Can you tell me about the conversations that you have to have with your children about police interactions? And could you tell me about how your mother and your sisters and your daughters are concerned about having children because of lack of equitable access to healthcare, because doctors were told that people who look like you can't feel pain? Can you tell me how it feels to know that your ancestors lived here for thousands of years, but when you try to come here, you and your children are put in cages? And can you tell me how it felt when a few years ago, the president entertained having people who look like you expelled from the country again? Can you tell me what anti-white racism looks like beyond having your feelings hurt, feeling uncomfortable, and having your sense of superiority challenged? And when you're done telling me what anti-white racism feels like for you, could you please tell me why you're not fighting to end racism for everybody? Yes, this is really important. Asian Americans were redlined from opening businesses in white neighborhoods because white people didn't want Asian Americans operating in their neighborhoods and didn't want Asian Americans profiting off of white people. But because the positionality of Asian Americans is weaponized to oppress Black people.
Y'all ever? All right, so you see that, right? So, you know, hey, she realizes that Asians were weaponized to, to oppress Black people. Yeah, we get it, you know. However, y'all still did it. Okay, that doesn't erase the hundreds, the years, almost a century of so-called Asians, Moab, doing the evil that y'all have done. Okay, so I'm gonna go to Psalms 83 because y'all all got a hand in this. It's not our fault that Esau oppressed your ass. All right, so this is Psalms 83 and 2. It says, "For lo, the enemies make atonement against thee. They have lifted up the head. They that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, let us cut them off from being a nation." This is why the so-called white man would continue to go into all of the neighborhoods and destroy them because they did not want Jake to become a nation again. Okay, it wasn't. They knew they know how Jake is. They know once Jake starts getting things established, how what they say is a Jake over. Jake start taking everything over, and it ain't through violence. It's not through malice. It's not through hatred. It's just because of what Jake can do. People want to see a part. They want to be a part of what they would call a spectacle. They see that Jake can do things and create things that don't exist anywhere else and build things. Because remember what he said, no matter where they went, they would build vibrant towns. They would make it work. Why? Because Jake is the salt of the earth, man. Okay? So they wanted to cut us off from being a nation. We can't allow them to establish themselves at all. That the name of Israel may be no more. And remember, it's because, hey, if we proclaim ourselves to be Israelites, and we're calling out to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. As the Lord is going to heal us. Okay, the Lord will hear us from heaven, and He will heal our land. Now, here it is, right here. It says, they have, for they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee, the tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites of Moab and the Hagarenes. Y'all are the top ones. Edom is the top one, Ishmael is second, and Moab is third, and you damn Africans are fourth. Okay? And who were the ones, right? Who were the ones that were intimately involved in the transatlantic slave trade? Edom, Ishmael, and Ham. Okay? And then y'all Moabites, I don't know any history about y'all being involved, so I can't say. But what I can say is that you definitely had a hand in oppressing Jake here in America. Oh, you sure did, because y'all didn't have any problems with siphoning off whatever wealth that y'all can get and mistreating Jake when they came into y'all neighborhoods. Okay, y'all didn't have any problems doing that. All right. So I'm gonna grab a couple more scriptures. I'm on 16:11. Because there's going to be a recompense for all of this evil that's done. All right. This is Second Ezra, chapter 6 and 18. And it says, and it said, behold, the days come that I will begin to draw nigh and to visit them that dwell upon the earth. And I will begin to make inquisition of them, that they be what they be that have hurt unjustly with their unrighteousness, and when the affliction of Zion shall be fulfilled. So the Lord is returning to make inquisition of those that have afflicted the Israelites, man, and have judged us unjustly. And it's not just us. It's going to be the whole. It's going to be all of the nations that were done unjustly as well. But first and foremost, it's going to be the Israelites. All right, because we're the chosen ones. Under the whole heaven, no nation have been done as the Israelites. Okay. So the Lord is gonna, y'all nations, the Lord gonna put y'all back intact, except y'all eat them, but y'all gonna have to serve us for what y'all did. Again, going back to y'all Jakes that want to say everybody can be saved. Look at what these people did to us, man. These people did this to us. And they still mistreat us to this very day, and then you want to let them into a kingdom that's promised for us. Ridiculous, man. Anyway, so I got one more precept. I'm gonna close out on that. This is Wisdom of Solomon 2. Wisdom of Solomon 2. All right. It says, For the ungodly reasoning with themselves, but not all right. Our life is short and tedious, and in death of a man there is no remedy, neither is there any man known to have returned from the grave. Yahweh Shai. Okay. For we are born at all adventure, and we shall be hereafter as though we have never been. For the breath in our nostrils is as smoke and a little spark in the morning of our heart. Yeah, we here today and going tomorrow, which be extinguished. Our body shall turn into ash, and our spirit shall vanish as soft air. Okay? Now I'm going to just scroll down to the point. It says, this is verse 6, it says, Come now, therefore let us enjoy the things that are present. Let us speedily use the creatures like as in our youth. Let's fill ourselves with costly wine and ornaments, and let no flower of the spring pass us by. Let us crown ourselves with rosebuds before they wither. Let none of us go without his part of our voluptuousness. Let us leave tokens of our joyfulness in every place. That's they sky they in every place in the world. Okay, he neither keepeth at home for our portion, for this is our portion and our lot. Let us oppress the poor righteous man, and let us not spare the widow, nor reverence the ancient gray hairs of the age. Let our strength be the law of justice, for what is feeble is found to be nothing worth. You see that? So this devil, he's pretty much going to do the evil and wickedness and whatever he feels necessary, whatever comes into his mind to do, because he feels like he's going to be here today and gone tomorrow. So he takes no value in life. Okay? Even though life is short, he don't take no value in it. This man is a true devil in the truest sense. Okay? And all of these problems that are put in place, that the problems that we're having in the world is due to white male policies. Okay? You know what? I'm gonna grab that real quick. Daniel, I think it's Daniel chapter 8. And this is Daniel chapter 8 and 25 says, through his policies, through his laws, through his policies also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. And he shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but shall be broken without hands. Okay? So, hey, all of these things are symptom. Globalization, the immigration thing, the oppression of Jake, all of these are due to white male failed policies. Okay? And some of them have not failed. Some of them are working exactly the way they intended to. Okay? But, he don't believe in collateral damage. So, well, I guess he does believe in collateral damage. So it's like whatever to all you other nations. So, hey, with that, I'm going to end it off by giving all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Ruchach Double honors to the elders and the apostle, great millstones. Until the next time, I say shalom.